We now return to Motor City Burning, a special presentation of WILS News.
After a celebratory Sunday descended into a horrifying Monday, J.D. Ross, still stranded with his brother in his aunt's apartment on the city's east side, woke up Tuesday morning intent on staying indoors. However, J.D.'s cousin had other plans.
I woke up, and so I seen my brother, and I said, where Larry? They say, Larry went back out. I said, he went back out? They say, yeah. Where did he go? They say he just went in that pawn shop right here. The pawn shop was down, we could see it from up on top right across the street, the pawn shop. As soon as I said, well, we got to go up there and get him, the National Guards came around out the alley from nowhere. They just swirled around, boom. And they was like, anybody in there, you dead. And a couple people panicked and was trying to run through the glass. Took them out. They was gone. So they went up in that window. And so they were saying, my cousin is up in there. I said, my cousin in there, did he come out? They said, no, he's still up in there. So I started crying. And they stayed in there for a while. I'm still crying. And then they finally came out and they got in there, the vehicle, and left. At that time, I'm crying. We're getting ready to go down there. My cousin pops out on the ledge of the pawn shop. And I ain't never seen that kind of fright in him. Never. His eyes, I just never seen that look before. His eyes was like, boom, but we were so happy to see him. We run down there to get him, and he come down there. He couldn't even say nothing, man. What happened? He couldn't even say nothing. He had to wait a while. We got back up there and made sure he was in the house, I guess, and he finally started saying what happened. What he did was he seen them two go out before him. They got hit. They had a rack of clothes. So he went and put himself and his arms inside the clothes. And back then they had the long mini coats. Remember the mini coats back there? So he had that covered over his foot. So he was inside the coat. And he said he heard the National Guards when they came in. He said, if anybody in here, you are dead. And so they took the bayonets. And they was bayoneting them clothes. He said they bayonet in front of them, just like in the movie, and they bayonet in back of them. He said he saw that bayonet come in there. I say he felt like he pissed on himself or whatever, but he just stood there. He just was praying. He just stood there. And they left out. After they walked on back out, they got in the car and put out. And he still waited just to make sure. And then all of a sudden he just popped out. Man, I was so happy, man. He was so scared. I was trembling. I get trembling now.
Tuesday saw a sharp increase in the activity of one of the more sinister and controversial elements of the riot, snipers.
There must be some kind of way out of here. Say the joker to the thief.
Both the east side and west side experienced attacks. The day before, Detroit firefighter Carl Smith had been killed with a shot through the head during an exchange of gunfire between guardsmen, police, and snipers. A later investigation pointed to a stray bullet from a guardsman's rifle as being the deadly shot. Smith was the only fireman to lose his life during the riot. Officer X, who had his own encounters with sniper fire during the week, recalls the fear the snipers produced.
I mean, there was a time when I was pinned under my car. I don't know where the shots were coming from, but I could see them bouncing off the pavement. And I was stuck under the car. I couldn't get out because I don't know where to get out of the car, from under the car. And then a great big tank came by, gave me cover, and I got out. There were people shooting at us, whenever they could.
With large portions of the city in virtual anarchy, Tuesday also saw a sharp and heavy-handed turnaround in law enforcement tactics. Thomas Novak recalls the new orders.
Each precinct and bureau had a teletype machine. It would type out messages, and this is how you got your teletypes on holdups or missing people or whatever, or stolen cars. Well, I don't remember exactly what night it was, but there was a teletype that came out and says looters will not escape or shall not escape, words to that effect. And there were some people shot that night, and things started slowing down.
In addition to the chaos in Detroit, the violence, looting, and firebombing had mushroomed to other cities as Grand Rapids, Pontiac, Saginaw, Flint, and Toledo soon had their own problems to deal with. State Trooper Craig Grunow was sent back to his home station of Flint on Tuesday. He recalled for us how Flint's leadership took a much stronger approach to the initial disturbance than the hands-off approach in Detroit.
They called us back to Flint. Now you go from the Detroit Police Department to the Flint Police Department, which I always said at that time had probably the finest city police department, and a lot of it was due to the man that was the chief of police there. His name was Jim Rutherford. There were no gray areas with Jim Rutherford. They called us back to Flint and said, okay, you've got an hour to go home, shine, shave, shower, shampoo, and be back here. And then we went down to the Flint Police Department, and we were addressed by Chief Rutherford. And to show you the difference, he said, and this is a quote, if you see somebody walking down the street with a jar with a rag sticking out of it, and you think it's gas, meaning that they were going to make a Molotov cocktail out of it, and you tell them to stop and they don't, shoot them. Now that's going from one end of the spectrum to the other pretty fast. They circumvented a whole lot of problems the way they did it.
Motor City Burning, a special presentation of WILS News, will continue in a moment.